On Mother's Day, we hear sermons exalting the role of the mother in the family. Mothers are encouraged. They're praised. They are lifted up as the most important person in the home. And indeed, we do well in so honoring them with tributes, with flowers, gifts, and the attention thus given. Then comes Father's Day. Dads come to church. They hear sermons on how they do not measure up as a father. We are told of some biblical or some present-day father and the perfect life that he lived, or some biblical or modern-day father who was a miserable example of a father. And many of the dads leave feeling like a failure, who doesn't ever or shall ever measure up as a father. A little boy was asked to define Father's Day, and he said it's just like Mother's Day, except you don't have to spend so much on a present. Dads, I have two bits of news for you today. First is, dads, you are a special person, and your role in the family is much valued and appreciated. And secondly, you don't have to listen to a sermon this day, on this Father's Day, telling you how much you should do to be a better father. The Hebrews had dozens of names for God. If they had a need, they would call on Jehovah Jireh, which meant the Lord will provide. If they were anxious, they would call on Jehovah Shalom, which meant the Lord our peace. If they were lonely or afraid, they would call on Jehovah Shammah, which meant the Lord was there. If they needed leadership, they would call on Jehovah Rohi, which meant the Lord is my shepherd. If they were sick, they would call on Jehovah Rapha, which meant the Lord is our healer. There were literally dozens more names. But you get the picture. When they needed something to get a hold of God, they referred to him by various names. The word Father is mentioned some 1,512 times in Scripture, some 1,128 times in the Old Testament alone, and 384 times in the New Testament. You get the picture that it's a big word. Of those 1,128 times in the Old Testament, only about a dozen of them spoke of God as a father. This was chiefly in the writings of David or in prophecy, like Psalm 68:5. David talked about him being a father to the fatherless. Or Isaiah 9:6, that predictive verse of Scripture about the coming Messiah, quoted in Handel's Messiah, of which we all know of, the everlasting Father. It's just that those few references didn't fit in Old Testament times about their concept of God. They did not think of God in such so intimate of terms. Jesus revealed to his disciples in Luke the 11th chapter a different name for God than they were used to, in what we know as the Lord's Prayer, or more correctly, I would call it the disciples' prayer, if you will. Imagine the disciples' surprise when he gave them a name that they were unfamiliar with all of those Old Testament names that they were aware of, and there were a plethora of them. To give them a name that they're unfamiliar with when they were addressing God. He said, Our Father. That was not the normal way they approached God. We know that Jesus spoke in Aramaic, in the common, everyday language used in New Testament times in that section of the world. The Hebrews had used Aramaic in communicating with non-Jews, since Cyrus had made Aramaic the official language when the Persians ruled the known world. The Jews had developed their own Hebrew version in usage amongst themselves. And though Hebrew, then and now, was the official language of the Jews, there was a language mixture amongst the people. The Aramaic word that Jesus used here for Father was Abba, which meant then and translates now in our own languages today or as Daddy or Papa. Jesus used this term later when on the Mount of Olives in the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed, Abba, Daddy, Papa, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. In fact, Jesus uses Father, my Father, 53 times. He uses our Father 21 times, and it gets even better. He says, your Father, an equal 21 times. The Heavenly Father, he said, is not only mine, it is ours. It is yours. He is your Father. We have the same Father. We have the same Daddy. We have the same Papa as Jesus. When Jesus used his Father in this way, it was thus a totally new concept of the Father God in the ways of the people in his day as they heard him. Jesus wanted them. He wants us today to consider, if you will, his Father, his Daddy, his Papa as theirs and as ours. In a very personable and intimate way, one of the first words that we hear our babies say is Dada. I know it sounds like a few weird syllables, but we guys know what it means, don't we? It's Daddy. It's very emotive for us grandpas and dads. You see, Jesus wanted to give his disciples and wants us to have a perspective of God that is that of a loving father and a child. That's what he was telling us. The approach of the religious leaders, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the priesthood, painted God and focused in on God as in a strict, a demanding type way. Thus, amongst the people of Christ's day, that father-like, that intimate, loving way that Jesus portrayed as a relationship with God his Father, and Jesus teaching his disciples to understand and to practice the intimacy of a child and a loving father. And that's what he did. What did he say? When you pray, how do you pray? Our Father. Can you say it with me? Our Father. Our Father. Would you go further? Our Daddy. Our Daddy. Our Papa. It was not the concept that of the people of God. In fact, Jesus saying this and teaching this angered the religious leaders of his day. It made them mad. And I submit to you, so it is in our day. God is being portrayed by the church, by the secular, and by the politically correct media as either, one, a harsh, demanding one who infringes on our lives in an archaic type way, who would burn us in torment for literally thousands of years for daring just to disagree with him. Or number two, as a soft, mamby-pamby one who loves everybody, who is not a measuring stick or of any particular behavior for anyone. Whatever you feel is right is a standard for behavior for you and everyone else, not our daddy, our God. Jesus is saying the greatest dad, and we all have one, helps us get here. The greatest dad is Abba God. That's the greatest dad. And that's what I'm telling you today. The greatest dad is not any of us, but it's Abba God, our Papa. The book, The Great Controversy Between Christ and Satan, written by Ellen White, points out that the centuries-old battle between Christ and Satan is centered over the character of God, our Father. Jesus was with the Father in creation of this earth and the human race. He created us, and He does fully understand us. I really get perturbed when I hear from the pulpit, and I don't think I've ever been in a church for a while that I haven't heard it from the pulpit at one time or another, that Jesus came so He could understand us. Jesus came not so He could understand us. He fully understands us totally from the womb of our mom to the tomb of our death. Never does He not understand us. He came, this Jesus, this Son, to show us, to demonstrate to us, to help us to see the true character of love that our Heavenly Father has for we, His children. Which is easier to build? Melvin could tell me. Something from scratch or rebuild something somebody's already wrecked and messed up. Which would it be? God built us perfect. Yet Satan has messed up us and our world gradually. And our concept of God, he has messed up. God's solution was to send Jesus to show us His Father's love. Did it not say God so loved the world that He gave? Did it not say that Jesus, as the Son of that God, came because He loves us? God's solution, again, was to send Jesus to show His fatherly love. He gives, as a terrific Father, the power of choice. No forced relationship with Him upon us. We dads and are trying to be fathers of love, and ladies, we really do try. Either our kids mess it up or we ourselves mess it up, okay? We are like God to that certain extent. We reach a point in our children making decisions that aren't good, realizing and recognizing that child has the power of choice. We all, as God's children, have that power of choice. It is central to His love, central to His government. That no matter how bad those decisions that we make become and the bad results that follow, our love as a father, His love as a father for us never fails. Picture a child in a crowded elevator, or a child trying to watch a parade from a crowded sidewalk. What do, dads? We lift them up into our arms, or we put them on our shoulders to give them our view, that they can see things as we see them. Our perspective from the way things look to us from our point of view can be totally different from God our Father's eye view. Have you ever discovered that? Sometimes only too late. When our children are anxious, we try to calm them by a different perspective and the way they're looking at it. We can stand and we can look up at Mount Everest. Wow, so huge, so massive. Picture yourself at the very foot of that huge mountain. Or we can fly a jet airliner over the Earth's tallest point and look down on it from Mount Everest from a higher perspective, and it doesn't look near as big. Size, mass, height all seem to depend on the height of your vantage point. We see, let's face it, we see things differently from the point of view of God's observation point. Just as a child from their parents' arms when they come for us for help when they get hurt, your Father, your Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Father, wants me to have, wants you to have an intimate relationship with Him from a higher advantage. Not looking through our sins, not looking where we screw up, okay? But from an advantage point where He is. It is thus, and it was for that reason that Jesus came. He lowered Himself to our level to point us up to the Father's level, did He not? You read through the Scriptures, the last book of Revelation. Those who would not bow down to the mark of the beast. No, I'm not taking that mark. Okay? You can torture me, you can starve me to death. I'm not taking that mark. And as you near the end of the book of Revelation, in the book of Revelation, the one who conquers will have the heritage, and it says, I will be their Father. Those that conquer, I will be their Father, and they will be my children. In the beautiful message of the parable of the prodigal son, I really think it ought to be the wonderful father, really. That's what it's trying to show us. The wayward son never stopped being the son, nor did the elder brother. The father never compared the two. They did the comparison. The Father works with each of us in our talent, in our personality range. As a father, He enjoys watching each of us working in our own realm, our differences. He just loves that. It's not like a humorous story I read about a chicken yard with a big hen house where a big red rooster had all his hens laying eggs. One day, two little boys were next door playing football with a brand new white football. And one of the boys accidentally, we guys know what accidentally means, okay? One of the boys accidentally kicked the white football over the fence and it rolled into the chicken yard. The rooster walked around and that white football, examining it carefully. And finally he called all his hens together around the white football. He then proclaimed, now girls, I don't mean to be negative, but here's the kind of eggs they're producing next door. You need to step up your efforts, he says. 2 Peter 3:9 tells us, He is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. Here's what the wonderful Father didn't say. He didn't say to the son that was leaving, He didn't stop him from leaving. Sure. He wanted to intervene as the son left. He waited and waited for his son to come home. So it is with our Father to us. He waits for us to come home. So it is so many times with our children and our parents. Way back in Old Testament times, those thousands of years ago, that great prophet Isaiah wrote, "Yea, Lord, you are our Father, and we are the clay. You are the potter, and we're the work of your hands." The Father, the potter, had to wait patiently, work with the clay. That would be us. I love what the prodigal's father did. What the father did when he saw the returning son from afar off. What does it tell us? The first thing he did, he ran to meet him. You have to realize that in Jesus' day, a man's robe would have a slit down one side, so that he could work and not be hindered because of the slit. A man would never run or even jog in his robe, because if he did, he would expose his thigh. And according to Jewish law, exposing that part of your body, your upper thigh, was downright shameful. But the loving Father, when the son was returning home, he didn't care. No matter what we do, our Heavenly Father is proud of us. He endured along with Jesus the shame of the cross. God is not just proud of you, He's crazy about you. He's nuts about you. He's bananas about you. He just loves you. When you fall, He lifts you up. He accepts you and loves you as much when you're struggling with sin, or when you return from sin, or when you do not sin. You are His child. He loves always. He forgives always. Listen and watch His love letter for you.
The words you are about to experience are true. They will change your life if you let them. For they come from the very heart of God. He loves you, and He is the Father you have been looking for all your life. This is His love letter to you. My child, you may not know me, but I know everything about you. I know when you sit down and when you rise up. I'm familiar with all your ways. Even the very hairs on your head are numbered, for you were made in my image. In me you live and move and have your being. For you are my offspring. I knew you even before you were conceived. I chose you when I planned creation. You were not a mistake, for all your days are written in my book. I determined the exact time of your birth and where you would live. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. I knit you together in your mother's womb and brought you forth on the day you were born. I have been misrepresented by those who don't know me. I am not distant and angry, but am the complete expression of love. And it is my desire to lavish my love on you, simply because you are my child, and I am your father. I offer you more than your earthly father ever could, for I am the perfect father. Every good gift that you receive comes from my hand, for I am your provider and I meet all your needs. My plan for your future has always been filled with hope, because I love you with an everlasting love. My thoughts toward you are countless as the sand on the seashore, and I rejoice over you with singing. I will never stop doing good to you, for you are my treasured possession. I desire to establish you with all my heart and all my soul, and I want to show you great and marvelous things. If you seek me with all your heart, you will find me. Delight in me, and I will give you the desires of your heart, for it is I who gave you those desires. I am able to do more for you than you could possibly imagine, for I am your greatest encourager. I am also the Father who comforts you in all your troubles. When you are brokenhearted, I am close to you. As a shepherd carries a lamb, I have carried you close to my heart. One day, I will wipe away every tear from your eyes, and I'll take away all the pain you have suffered on this earth. I am your Father, and I love you even as I love my Son Jesus. For in Jesus my love for you is revealed. He is the exact representation of my being. He came to demonstrate that I am for you, not against you, and to tell you that I am not counting your sins. Jesus died so that you and I could be reconciled. His death was the ultimate expression of my love for you. I gave up everything I loved that I might gain your love. If you receive the gift of my Son Jesus, you receive me, and nothing will ever separate you from my love again. Come home and I'll throw the biggest party heaven has ever seen. I have always been Father, and will always be Father. My question is, will you be my child? I am waiting for you. Love, your dad, Almighty God.
Father, we go in peace and we leave here today living and loving in your love. Thank you for your blessings. Amen.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver